annual NOLA Teacher Fest, sponsored by the All-State Sugar Bowl New Orleans teacher community. The NOLA Teacher Fest is happening Friday, May 2nd at Champion Square from 4 to 7 p.m. The fest is open to teachers, paraprofessionals, deans, coaches, counselors, and other school support staff. Visit our website to learn more and RSVP, www.newschoolsforneworleans.org.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt, and my co-host this week, it's the one and only Will Sutton. Good morning, Will. How you doing?
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good
Listen,
morning, Dr. Wyatt and New Orleans.
I know, right? That's how you wake up on a Monday, baby. So listen, we want to welcome Will to the co-host to see y'all. So y'all show him some love in the comments. But right now, we want to make certain that we honor Will and I were talking off air, and we learned over the weekend that New Orleans defense attorney, legal analyst Robert Jenkins passed away. So we want to offer our condolences there. I know that there are some people who may have some stories to share about him or want to send their condolences. And if you want to do that, the number here is 504-582-9422. Did you know Robert?
I didn't know him personally, but you know when you're a defense attorney, that's some different work.
Yeah.
From being a prosecutor, working with the DA, working with the police, and the people who rise in that defense line of work make a name primarily, in my opinion, not necessarily because of the law, but because of the way they treat people.
Well, it also says that Mr. Jenkins was well known in the legal community as a high-profile defense attorney, notably representing politicians Ray Nagin and Aaron Broussard in their corruption cases. Right. And that is the headline that one of the news outlets put for his passing. Right. But I do know that I've seen him on a number of things being like an analyst almost for the law. Right. Not just in who he represented, but when legal cases came up, most of the news stations chose him to be the legal expert.
The voice.
Yeah, to speak on certain matters. And so we want to, here at WBOK, offer our condolences to the family of Robert
Jenkins.
Robert Jenkins. So that, there's that on that. But I also want to kind of pivot. I just did not want to let that moment pass.
Oh, no.
But you went to Jazz Fest this weekend. Did you not?
I did. I was out there for a little bit. I got out there on Friday, and I got out there yesterday on Sunday, and finding a new rhythm for my Jazz Fest going. First of all,
you gotta map it out.
First of all, it's expensive.
Yeah.
So,
who do we talk to?
Yeah.
Can I speak to your manager? Why is this so high?
So going every day for all the things and all. I mean, that's just out of the question. But I do volunteer with my fraternity, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Row Phi chapter. So we were scanning tickets. Okay. And the Brothers of Row Phi are scanning tickets every single day of Jazz Fest. And I enjoy doing that because you see some of everybody.
I was just about to say, Will, you have money because going more than one day is... you
see some of the same people come back and they got like 3-day, 4-day passes. They got brass things from the other radio station. They got these, I don't know what, Big Chief. It's like I attend all the stuff. They they don't even come through our line.
Well, yesterday
they got
was a
their
good day.
own line to go through.
Well, so what I'm hearing you say is you got a front row seat to the VIPs of the city, because
Yeah.
clearly that's some people that got some kind of connection somewhere they're going every single day. But yesterday, wasn't it Lil Wayne, The Roots?
Yeah.
Babyface. That was quite a day to go.
Yeah, but I had a very busy week. I was having a busy weekend. So let me just shout out St. Mary's Academy Gospel Choir.
Let's give them some love.
They were rocking on Friday. You see all these big names and everything, but we got some talented young folks here.
Yeah.
Talented.
Well, they told me Babyface tore up the stage too now.
Yeah, they were good. But, it wasn't a day for me to jump from this place and that place. I went and sat down at the jazz tent yesterday.
Am I mistaken in thinking that Tank performed yesterday from Tank and the Bangers? I know she was on that stage at some point because I saw a clip, like a still photo of her, Shakondria, and Sonny Patterson.
Okay.
And I thought to myself,
that's a nice lineup.
Man, New Orleans has so much brilliance and intellect and beauty and talent inside of it. And I have those three women on the stage at one time.
Yep.
That's a ticket you need to pay for.
Absolutely. I met these people. They are visiting from Boston.
Yeah.
Older couple. They've been to like 25 jazz fests.
Wow.
And so they're committed. This is like a part of their annual planning.
Yeah.
We will be at Jazz Fest, and we will be at Jazz Fest both weekends.
Well,
I'm
going to try to
today.
make Jazz
Today
Fest.
for them is wash day.
Yeah, because they got to get ready. They got
So
to
get ready. But,
wash, rinse, repeat. They got to get it done.
But one of the things I love in talking with them is they know all the big name acts, and they might go see one or two, but they're here to see our culture.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all
culture.
about, and I think events like Jazz Fest is an opportunity to remind the city of New Orleans who she is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and what attracts so many people to her, and why she's invaluable. Right, and so
Absolutely.
if nothing else, that's what I take away from it.
Yeah.
I always think about Miss Alicia said I'm always equating stuff to movies, and she think it's funny.
Yeah,
but I liken it to the Temptations, right? When he was what that man told him on the movie. Isn't that the Temptations where he said, "Ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis"? Is that
right.
ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis, because the people are coming to New Orleans to experience the essence of who New Orleans is, and I think Jazz Fest is one of those opportunities where you can immerse yourself in everything that is culturally New Orleans, from the food to the music to its people, and that is why people flock here.
And I saw Bradford Marsalis, who has returned home in the last couple of years. And his quartet. So that was my first time seeing him live in New Orleans in a long time.
Yeah.
And his quartet was very talented. And there was a little surprise at the end. Michael White, clarinetist Michael White, came on right at the end. And that was
I would
really
love
cool.
to see PJ Martin at some point in my lifetime live, and I want to see John Baptiste at some point in my lifetime live, because they're like city folk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when PJ made the song "Ain't Nothing Like a New Orleans Girl," I mean, listen, that was just. I mean, that's the period after the exclamation point.
Right. It's funny you say that, because this is not Jazz Fest, but during that Super Bowl week, when they had all that stuff going on, it's like, who are these people spending all this money? But good for them. Good for them. But there was a free day-long concert, and John Batiste performed. So I got to see him perform. Didn't have to pay. I was like,
Favor
what
ain't
the
fair.
heck?
Favor ain't fair.
Wow.
Well,
that was like incredible. And so I kind of thought it was going to be John Batiste presents. I'm going to come out, say a word.
He presented.
No, he came into the audience.
He presented, yeah.
So
That's
definitely see him live.
That's what I love.
Because he's New Orleans boy.
So we're going to pivot for a second and talk about the big elephant in the room that I know everybody's talking about Monday morning is this NFL draft situation that took place, and there's so many layers to that conversation. But I think we all can agree that what we watched happen to Shedeur Sanders, to the Sanders family, was I believe I don't think anybody thought that would go the way that it went. And to have his draft stock plummet the way that it did, and then to have it likened to arrogance or to his father trying to dictate where he goes. I just find it strange, right? And I'm calling it strange because I don't even feel like pulling out any ACT words. It's just strange and weird. Because we've seen this type of thing happen with other prominent fathers, but we've not seen the conversation be what we saw it morph into. I watched the same thing happen with Archie Manning and Eli. Literally, like, I watched it happen with them, and I can still remember the clip. I'm young enough to remember the clip when Eli was on the microphone, his father was standing next to him, and they were saying where they weren't going to play on the microphone. They were not going to play. And he was drafted by the very team that he said he wasn't going to play for. And guess what happened, Will? A trade immediately happened. That is how he got with the Giants.
Right.
So I'm just not understanding why we're acting as if this is the first time this has happened, right? Now, I'm not young enough to know firsthand the Elway case, but I'm a researcher. Right. I watch football. Right. I'm a lover of the game. It happened in his case as well. So why do you think it's different that now, and that might feel like a facetious question, but I really want to understand what you have to say about that. Why do you think it's so different when there's a black father and a black son, and the way that they're trying to use their knowledge of the game or the system to get the best outcome for his children? Why is it then attached to this is arrogance? He doesn't seem like he's grateful, because they even made a point to say, Will, that he didn't participate in the combine. I can remember Caleb. I can remember Jaden Daniels. They didn't participate in the combine either, but they did their pro day, their school pro day. Shedeur did the same thing. So why are we putting this kid under a microscope to act as if he's moving like an anomaly when there's a precedent for everything that he's done leading up to the NFL draft?
Yeah, so a couple things about that. One, the NFL draft is a time for the NFL teams to make some really serious business decisions. So I don't want to skip over that. I mean, they should be doing what's best for their individual team to draft players that they want and having up their backups and all of that, and which positions and where they want to strengthen and whether they want to play in the first round or a later round. And I mean, we can look at what the Saints did, and they got a quarterback, not in the first round. So there's, not like the highest tier. And no offense to the new guy for the Saints.
Oh, no, we're gonna be honest.
He is not a Sanders.
No.
He just
not by any stretch of the imagination.
He just isn't.
Yes.
He just isn't. But to use that comparison, Tyler is a skilled college quarterback, and he makes plays, and he doesn't make noise. So I think so many people were looking at Shedeur, and he's so confident, he's overconfident. So I think this part of this, matter of fact, RG3 said it was definitely personal. What happened was definitely personal.
Yeah, because I can also think of some people who were overly confident who did not look like Shedeur did. Johnny Manziel, there's no other person to talk about in terms of flash and the things that he was doing, and I do not remember this sort of backlash. And is there such a thing as too confident when I also have the skill set to back up my level of confidence? I'm confident because I've worked hard. I've invested the time. He was trained by Tom Brady, for God's sake.
Right.
And even the team Tom Brady is associated with passed on him. Right. So something about this feels deeper than just his confidence. It feels deeper than just his father understanding the game and being able to make the best decisions for him. Because again, we've seen, and then I heard you say something that I wanna speak on. You say for the teams to make the best decisions for them about who they want. What this is teaching us is the game is changing in such a way that it's no longer just about what the teams want. Because the athletes have to also want it too.
They do. They do.
have to also want it too.
That's right. And I think this was a case where
I think that's what scares the NFL, though.
Clearly.
Yes.
I think they're clear that he is a first-round
very much
quality
clear
quarterback.
Yes.
First round.
Because look what you do after that, Will.
Even if you go to the second, but,
fifth
unimaginable. Round?
Unimaginable.
I mean, that's crazy. So even though the individual teams are making the best decisions for themselves, how can that many teams pass on Sanders?
There's a one-word answer for that. There's a one-word answer for that, and it's collusion. Because you're not going to, and this is why I guess it boggles my mind that folk can see something so clearly and ignore it, because there's no other explanation for why so many teams passed on him outside of the word collusion. But what I really have a problem with, Will, and what I'm hoping we could kind of like bring it home with, is who are the unnamed sources? I do not think it's enough for the media. I think the media has a responsibility. It's not enough for the media to repeat the things that they're repeating without any sort of evidence, any sort of like receipt attached to it. All we have is unknown sources said that he didn't interview well. Unknown sources said that he was arrogant. Unknown source, and that's all we got. We don't have anything to measure it up against. Who are these people? Because when the media picks up something like that and they start to regurgitate it and they're repeating it and they're posting it, then the news travels and it starts to make the folk reading the headlines believe that, he this is why it's happening to him, because he didn't interview well, but we have no evidence of his interviews.
Well, I think we have some evidence of some interviews that he did during training, during football season, when he did podcasts, when he did radio, when he did television. He was confident.
So that's where I'm going with it. What is the not interviewing well?
So this young man was raised to be confident. Too many of our kids don't have a confidence, and he was raised to be confident. He was also raised, you're not going to just have ego and confidence. You're going to work hard.
Talent.
You're going to work hard.
Yes.
You're going to do this.
He's scandal-free.
And if I can't do it for you, I'm getting somebody who can do it for you.
His grades are what the grades were supposed to be, because they go all the way back, look like to your preschool days, and vet you. So you couldn't find anything that you can say that will sway you in that way. So now it's about his arrogance. And then another dangerous thing that I'm watching the narrative be painted about is now they're juxtaposing him against Cam Ward, talking about this is the sort of athlete that you want, and this is what they want Shedeur to be. And I'm hoping that kid doesn't fall in the trap of allowing them to be divisive between himself and Shedeur, because Cam Ward spoke very highly of Shedeur every single time he was in front of a microphone and it was thrown to him, which I thought was also unfair to him. You're going to take away his moment by talking about another athlete to the extent that you're doing. It minimizes the fact that he's the first-round draft pick. Let's talk about that. But I think this is a collusive effort by the NFL, and it's just another tactic that is used when you don't kowtow to the system or to the infrastructure that is the NFL, because here we are. And then you turn around and try to give him first-day draft treatment, and you drafted him in the 5th round. You still brought him on the stage. That doesn't happen. That's because you know the caliber of athlete he is, and you knew that what you did to him was unwarranted. But what I love about that family is they still celebrate it same way they would celebrate if his name was called earlier. Right? They showed no signs of allowing it to get to them, whether they had that private moment or not. They didn't show it to the world, and that's what I respected. Right. Because they want to see you bend the knee, and I don't want you to allow them to see you do that, because that's what they wanted, in my opinion.
Right.
And if you don't come to that system broken or impoverished or fatherless, it doesn't seem like they uplift you in the way that they do when you're coming almost like, I got to save my family. I got to get my mom out of poverty. I got to, retire my mama. Like, every child dreams of doing that, but the NFL is not the only way to get that done. And far too often, we've allowed them to dictate the narrative for our children. And I think this situation shows it. To me, this situation showed more about the NFL than it did about the Sanders family, in my opinion. I think it highlighted the skeleton that they want to hide in the closet, and it put it on Front Street. It was very obvious what was happening there.
Yep. So, part of the issue for some of these NFL owners and coaches and scouts, I think, is that Shedeur Sanders is already bigger than football.
Yeah.
He
and
is.
That's what the NFL
He
is. Now,
is.
we got to break,
so,
but I agree.
He's already bigger than football.
I agree.
And he's going into a packed quarterback room in Cleveland. And say the name Shedeur Sanders. Say the name Joe Flacco.
Because we're going
say
to
the name Joe Flacco.
We got to go to break.
Okay.
But the point that I want to make before we go is, if this was really about the business of it and doing what's best, you know that boy is an instant money maker. That young man, that kid, that star, instant money maker. Jersey selling out. The people are coming. They're coming. They're coming to see what the hype is about, and they're going to stay because the hype is associated with talent, right?
I will say the GM at Cleveland is a brother.
Listen, we got to go to break, but when we come back, we're going to talk to Dr. Janine Jacobs. It is never too late to reinvent oneself, and sometimes the most fulfilling paths are the ones we least expect. Y'all stay with us right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
Good Monday morning. I'm Daryl Forges with WDSU News, and here's your headlines. A Jefferson Parish woman accused of brutally killing her boyfriend's child is set to stand trial today. Bunek Landon is charged with first-degree murder and 2 counts of obstruction of justice in the death of 6-year-old Bella Fontenelle. Investigators say Landon killed the child in April of 2023, then placed Bella's body in a bucket and left it on the front lawn of the child's mother. After being closed all last week, the Orleans Parish Municipal and Traffic Court will reopen today. The Traffic Court was closed for electrical repairs, marking the 3rd time the court was closed because of a power failure. New Orleans City Council members are calling for an investigation into working conditions for city employees. The council wants to investigate allegations of harassment, retaliation, and arbitrary hiring decisions of the Department of Public Works. The investigation will look into other departments where conditions could be impacting employees' work. Council members will also discuss sanitation services in the French Quarter and Downtown Development District. This comes after Mayor LaToya Cantrell announced that the current contract with Ivy Waste will be terminated early. Today's meeting is set for 10 a.m. inside council chambers. And the NFL continues to investigate a prank call made to quarterback Shedeur Sanders during the NFL draft. According to the NFL, the 21-year-old son of Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator made the call to Sanders. Now, while Sanders awaited news of his draft status, Jax Ulbrich, the son of Jeff Ulbrich, called the quarterback, claiming to be Mickey Loomis of the Saints. Ulbrich has apologized for his actions. Shedeur has yet to comment about the incident, and Shedeur was drafted by the Cleveland Browns. I'm Daryl Forges. That's your headlines for WBOK, and have a great day.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat. Operation Hope founder and CEO John Hope Bryant took a big swing recently by meeting with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent at the White House to mark the beginning of Financial Literacy Month. The move is controversial because Bryant's supporters know his political views largely differ from that of the Trump White House. But in a conversation on Bloomberg, Bryant explained why he felt it was important to set aside politics.
If the president succeeds, we succeed. If the president fails, we fail. What's complicated about this? Nobody should be rooting for his failure. We should be trying to help him succeed. Which is exactly why I risked, pushback from my traditional community to go and have this meeting, which I thought was important on the first day of Financial Literacy Month.
Bryant says he's known Bessent for a long time and looks forward to working with him and the White House to help get financial tools to more people. I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner. on the Black Business Beat.
Missed a show? Want to hear that guest everyone's talking about? WBOK is now streaming on all your favorite podcast apps. Just search WBOK Media, hit download, share with a friend, and don't forget to rate your favorite shows 5 stars. Because when our voices are heard, our impact grows.
NOLA Public Schools is excited for the rest of this 24-25 school year journey with our families, watching our students dive into learning, growth, and success. As the school year continues, our dedicated educators are focused on keeping every student engaged and motivated. Let's keep embracing new challenges, celebrating achievements, and supporting each other to make the rest of this year even more impactful. Stay connected with your school and NOLA PS through our social media channels for updates and resources. We're here to help our scholars attend today, achieve tomorrow.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 12:30 a.m. on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Good morning show. Happy Monday, everybody. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta White. My co-host this morning is the one and only Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
And if you're just joining the conversation, we were talking about the NFL draft.
Oh, yeah.
Namely, with Shedeur Sanders dropping from a first-round draft pick all the way to the 5th round. And a part of that that storyline is this supposed prank call that was made by a kid whose father works for the NFL. He works as a defensive coordinator for the Falcons. And I, for one, am not buying the story that they're trying to push on us about how this ultimately took place. And I do know that there are so many questions for me because there's also video. We wouldn't even know about this prank call if the kids had not recorded.
Well, they wanted to get out.
That's what I'm saying.
And they clearly were set up to videotape and everything.
Absolutely.
Look what we did.
Absolutely. And if you looked at the video, the son of the defensive coordinator is in the video. He's not the one on the phone.
That's right.
Talking, but he's in
right,
the
basically
video.
right next to him.
Absolutely. And the only way that the person on the phone could be talking is if the young man who accessed his father's laptop to get the information gave it to him. So I don't believe in this unintentional thing that they're talking about. There was very much intent to do what was done. And if you have access to that sort of information that is supposed to be sensitive data, like it's the contact numbers for all of the potential draft picks and their families, their agents, and all of those things, how do you inadvertently leave your laptop open and accessible so much so that your kid can not only get in it, but he can get it and get several numbers from several prospective draft picks and make prank phone calls? Because Shedeur wasn't the only person to receive a prank phone call, but he is the most talked about one, of course, because everything is highlighted up on him dropping in rounds. And so that's why the story itself is out there. Well, I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, it's a level of irresponsibility. If you're working at a school and you have access to individual student-sensitive information, so not even in the draft, but you're working and you got it on your screen. But some people come in, you're not going to leave that up because it's pertinent to what you need to do for whatever reason, probably trying to figure out how best to help that kid. But everybody doesn't need to see it. So you take action when you close it for a moment, do something else, and you go back to it. Leaving a laptop or iPad open at home, not at the office, and not thinking about what you're looking at with numbers that only a few people are supposed to have, which is not unusual. These high-profile players in particular, and even some lower-profile players,
you get a number just for that reason.
Have phones for draft day or
because
the draft
you know
days.
When it rings,
you know,
it's the call.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's somebody who has this number. So everybody has Shadur's first number and probably his second number.
But not the draft number.
Yeah, right. But they don't have the draft number. Here's the draft number.
Like we gonna get into it, Will. We're gonna get into it, I promise you. And there's so much to talk about with that. But our guest is on the line now, Dr. Jeannie Jacobs.
Oh.
She's getting ready to join us, and she's going to talk to us about this idea that you don't have to finish where you started. Like you could start out in one career, and you could decide. Weren't you and I just talking about that?
Yes.
What is that? Your nephew or somebody?
My nephew. Yeah. He was great at soccer, and now he's like a prize-winning writer.
See, it all goes together. Good morning, Dr. Jacobs. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. You're on with Dr. Wyatt and Will Sutton.
Hi, good morning. How's everyone?
Fabulous. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Listen, we are glad to have you. Like we're talking, Will and I were talking off air just by coincidence, like just by happenstance this morning, and he was telling me about his nephew who he started out, being an athlete and he was excelling in one sport, tried a new sport. That didn't go quite so well, and now he's what? Like a nationally recognized,
prize-winning New York Times bestseller.
Come on now. So that is the very essence of it's never too late to reinvent one. So can you talk to us about that, Dr. Jacobs?
That is so true. I think the problem is as a group of people, we can't really see ourselves beyond who we think we are or who society has, delegated us to be. We have to tap in and remember that, hey, I'm more than just a teacher. I am more than just a doctor. That's what I had to say to myself. Before I became a doctor, I had these skills. I had these dreams. I was this person. I'm still that person. And I think we all need to realize you are who you are. Tap into who you were before you became this title. Reach in, pull into that, into those past. No, it's not even a past. Pull into your present, and you will find some gems that you never thought you had, and you'll be able to run with it. I mean, just like with your nephew, sports star, now to this journalist. That's amazing. Me, a doctor, now a lifestyle maiden, never thought I would be. But those skill sets that I had for love of home, family, being creative, it has always been there. I just tapped into it, and look what happened.
Dr.
The best thing ever for me.
Dr. Jacobs, can you give us a little bit about your story? I mean, what about your childhood or high school led you to wanting to be a doctor, and how'd you like that? And then how'd you get to where you are?
Well, my mother, she was a school teacher. A lot of people in my family were educators, and I grew up, around a lot of people who were in the medical field, physicians, nurses, et cetera. And I just had a really strong love for science and math. And as school started, and that's where I kind of, became the student the academic kid who was very smart in math and science. And that just kind of led into medicine for me. And, growing up in South Carolina, I had to do chores. I had to learn how to take care of the house, how to cook, how to plan menus. My mother worked. Both my parents worked. My father was an entrepreneur. But I had these responsibilities. And from those responsibilities, those chores that kids hate today, like my kids do, I'd actually developed skill sets that have stayed with me forever. So it was there all along. I just tapped into those skill sets of, enjoying home, enjoying life, creating wonderful, cozy environments for people, for my family. And this is where I am now. So I quit medicine. I quit medicine 3 years ago. I walked out. Medicine had become a place where I couldn't be me. I had to be someone else in order to fit in the system. You know, it became a point where I guess big businesses were running medicine. I couldn't take care of the patients. And one day I was sitting in labor and delivery taking care of a patient who was COVID positive, and she basically berated me. She even tried to physically harm me and my staff. And some snap, I said, why am I here? I have a family. I have a life. I have gifts. I'm not done, and I'm not going to let a patient potentially end that for me and my family. And I left that hospital after telling my supervising physician that day that I would not be returning. I had no doubt. I got in my car, I rode down I-10, and I never looked back at that hospital. And at that moment, I found that peace, that clarity, and that purpose in my life. I knew where I needed to be. And it's been wonderful ever since.
That's pretty incredible, though. I mean, so many people, if they identify medicine as a career, you have to do so much.
Mm-hmm.
Schooling, education, investment, the residencies, and all the specialty practices. And if I remember correctly, you were an OBGYN, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I was.
I mean, that's a heck of a thing. You're taking care of women in all types of preventative care and perhaps delivering babies, very special moments and important health care for our mothers and sisters and nieces and aunties. Now, how have you found what you did for people as an OBGYN, as just Jenny?
I'm still me. You know, despite all the education, et cetera, I will always be Dr. Jacobs. I will always have that ethos for service, helping others. So what I do as Just Jeannie and my lifestyle brand is the same. I'm teaching people how to elevate their lives, how to improve their lives, how to navigate this world and still be authentically themselves and be happy in their lives, be grateful for what you have.
I
think
it's just
in a different format.
I think the most important the takeaway here that I find inspiring is that a lot of us do feel stuck in jobs that don't serve us anymore. And that's a quote of yours that I'm looking at. And just as Will said, you go through so much schooling and you feel like you're obligated to stay in this lane because it took so much to get there. And I think there's so much strength in you choosing to do what felt right to you, what spoke to your heart. And I mean, you like you said, you'll always be Dr. Jacobs, but these pivotal moments and this lifestyle change, you call yourself a lifestyle maven, and just to watch you do what makes your heart happy. When I speak, I do a lot of speaking engagements, and that's one of the things that I say to folk. When you find what you're passionate about and you could just happen to make money doing what you love doing, that's the win, right? That's the win. I don't want to be stuck in a job just for the money or just because it makes, sense to other folk, what their level of success looks like for them. I think when you find what you're passionate about and your passions align with this idea that you can still make the type of living you want to make for yourself, I think that's where you find the happiness.
Yes. And also people have to realize time. Don't waste your time on things that, like I said, don't serve you. Because if you waste your time on that kind of stuff, when will you ever find yourself? What time will you have for yourself, for your family, for people who really matter to you? What are you going to leave behind? I have kids, and my husband and I, we didn't have our children until we were in our 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want my kids to say, oh, yeah, mom was a great doctor. Mom delivered, I delivered some of my daughter's classmates. Oh, she delivered this person. She delivered that. That's great. But I want them to know that I'm their mom. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice do you give to other women or men or just folk out there trying to find their way? What advice would you give? Because that's a scary thing for somebody to hear, that an obstetrician gynecologist decided that they wanted to go into being a lifestyle maybe. Like you're really
That's a lot to walk away from.
That's a big pivot, right? Yeah. So what do you
It is a
tell
big
folk
pivot.
on the other side of fear? What do you tell them? Like, is it just to take the leap? Is it to believe, in what your heart is telling you to do? Like, what advice would you give to folk who are in jobs that they're not necessarily happy with doing?
First of all, yeah, you know what? You're gonna have to take a leap, but before you do that, find your clarity and purpose. What is it that's driving you? Why are you doing this? You got to really sit down and look at yourself and say, what is it that's going to make me take that leap? Why am I doing this? What is my purpose? What is my goal here? Once you find that clarity and purpose, people worry about, oh, my friend's going to talk about me. I spent all this money on my education. People going to talk about me. It's not going to matter, because if you find your clarity and purpose, you're going to follow the things that are going to align with your clarity and purpose. They're going to give you life, and you're going to be able to make the decisions that are perfect for you in every step of the way. Another thing to think about it too, once you find your clarity and purpose, you're going to become a nonconformist. You're not going to go with the flow just because everybody else is doing it. You're going to actually say no. You're going to say no fast if something does not align with your clarity and purpose.
Say no fast.
Say no fast.
Say no
You're not
fast.
gonna waste time. Remember, time is important.
Yes.
Because you're going to gain time. You're going to be able to actually be more efficient with your time and get to where you need to be faster once you start saying no. People are going to be mad with you when you say no, but keep walking. Because that person who's mad with you because you said no, they're going to come back to you later and say, darn, I wish I had listened to you. I understand now, Another thing is finances. Make sure you pay off your debt, have money stashed away. For me, I had lines of credit because I had, medical practices. My husband and I were also very entrepreneurial, so we had some things set aside that if we wanted to make that leap, so to speak, or we needed to make changes, as we got older with younger kids, we were able to make some moves quickly for our family. So that's really important as well. So establish relationships with your banks, pay your debt, put up some money, do what you have to do. If you have to cut back, that's fine, Also find the support that you need. People think you need to have friends and family supporting you left and right. Guess what? That's not necessarily the case. Your friends and family are not going to necessarily support you. And don't be upset if they don't. Because remember, they haven't necessarily found their clarity and purpose, or they haven't really figured out yours or what you're doing. They just think you're a hot mess maybe right now. And they're going to be petting you along. But find people who are going to be not only for you, but with you through the journey. And that takes a skill set. You have to network with people. You will figure that out. The people you need will come before you and help you.
So if people want to find their clarity of purpose, how can they reach out to you?
Easily. You can go to my website, JustJeannieJacobs.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Jeannie Jacobs. Or you can actually email me at contactus@JustJeannieJacobs.com.
And that's one N or two?
Two N's, like I Dream of Jeannie. Jeannie.
All right.
Well,
wonderful.
Dr. Jacobs, we want to thank you this morning for sharing part of your story with us. It's absolutely inspiring. I'm not even going to hold you. It's really inspiring. And the point that Will made about walking away from a career that takes so many years to invest in, and to get those credentials and to then say this is no longer serving me, that takes a lot of courage. And I am inspired by you. And I am excited to have this conversation with you and excited for people to hear your story, because it's never too late to decide that you want better for yourself. And I'm glad that you were able to see that and chase it and acquire it. And you look good doing it too. Let me add that to it. Let me add that. But thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. You all have a wonderful week.
Have a blessed one. Listen, we got to go to break, y'all. But when we come back, Will and I are going to jump right back into the news. We're going to continue to talk about it. If you want to join the conversation, number here is 504-582-9422. We want to thank Dr. Janine Jacobs for joining us this morning, talking about this idea that it's never too late to reinvent oneself. And sometimes the most fulfilling paths are the ones we least expect. She went from an obstetrician gynecologist to a lifestyle maven, and she is having her way at it. Y'all stay with us right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
This is your news update for WBOK from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Expect a hot week. Partly cloudy skies today with near record highs in the mid to upper 80s. Partly cloudy tonight, lows in the 60s and 70s. Clouds increase Tuesday and Wednesday. Highs both of those days in the mid to upper 80s. Rain arrives by Thursday on into the weekend. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor, we're here to shine a light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. Every Friday at noon on WBOK.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 1230 AM on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Happy Monday, everybody. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta White. Shout out to my super producer, Naren Sanders, and my co-host, the one and only Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
So it's Monday, y'all, and we talking about all the things. I want to once again thank Dr. Jeannie Jacobs, the lifestyle maven, for joining us this morning. She went from a doctor to putting together the best experiences of living well that there is. And so quite the pivot, but she's making it look very, very good, and she's doing a wonderful job at it. But during the break, we were talking about Shannon Sharpe.
Why you want to bring that up?
Listen, we were talking about Shannon Sharpe because, listen, anybody who's listened to me long enough, they understand that I'm multifaceted. I am an athlete. I love talking about sports. I'm culturally tapped in, so I'm listening to the different podcasts and different things like that. So I follow Shannon Sharpe in terms of his career moves. I mean, he was on First Take. He was doing some things with ESPN. He was on the precipice of signing a $100 million podcast deal. And as he was prepping to put the final touches on that deal, a story broke about some allegations against him that were made by a young Caucasian female that he had been dating or in the situationship with.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't know if dating might be strong.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right.
A situationship with. And I know there are a lot of feelings about this, but I want to be very, very clear on the front end of saying this. It's nothing illegal about it because she is of age. Mm-hmm. So there's no legalities of it. Now, it may be morally apprehensible to some people because of the age difference, maybe, but that she is an adult by way of her age that makes her an adult, right? Mm-hmm. But he's 56 years old. Mm-hmm. And all I want us to do, and when I'm talking about us, I'm talking about this community of people to do, is to understand who you are, right? Mm-hmm. Understand what your value is and understand what is at stake for you to lose should this thing go left, right? Because my first question is, Will, I mean, you're a man, I'm a woman. Let's talk about this. Mm-hmm. Why are we recording intimate conversations? And these are not new intimate conversations. These are things we've said to each other before.
Right.
This is how we engage with each other.
Right.
This is our way of doing whatever it is we do.
Right.
Age difference aside, this two consenting adults doing whatever makes them happy.
Right.
Why are we recording it if not for the moment that one of us is going to undercut the other one, right?
Yep.
Why are we recording it? You have to know who you are. You have to know your value. You have to know what's at stake. I'm not playing with no 21-year-old reckless nobody that has nothing to lose, everything to gain. I'm not doing that. That's just me talking. I'm not doing that. We have to be equally yoked in a way that if this thing hits the fan, then we both have something of value that we're putting up for grabs here.
Yeah.
He seems to be the only loser in this equation, in my opinion, in terms of what's at stake here. She's 21. What she got, an OnlyFans or something? I mean, she got a dorm room with some posters on the wall? What does she have to make you think that this is a equal line of reciprocity going on here?
Right. Right.
Why are we recording intimate conversations and then we're going to put them out as if this is like some sort of harassment or some sort of aggression when all of the details about this says this is how we communicate with each other. This is how we interact with each other.
Yep.
Like, why are we doing that? I mean, I watched the same thing.
I don't think it makes much sense to record that part of a relationship.
I asked that question, Will, because I'm thinking it sounds like a plot to me. It sounds like a setup almost. It's like, why are we recording this? Because this is not our first time engaging like this. So why is it the first conversation?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like, why? Who decided at what point for you? Because somebody decided this for her, in my opinion, right?
Right.
Somebody helped her put this together. And then when I hear the lawyer's name who's involved, like, it just don't smell right to me. Mm-hmm. Now, this is not to excuse him, because my problem with him is you don't know who you are, sir. You don't know your value. You don't know that you are the table, not what you bring to the table, but you are the table. And you're going to let a little girl take the legs from up under your table. I'm just disappointed. I'm sorry. I am.
Yep.
Because listen, you don't like the Tracy Ellis Rosses of the world, but that's probably where you need to be dating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody that's equally yoked in terms of what they have to lose should something go left, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you're messing with a kid, and she's going to do kid things like record you. Like tell her friends she's dating Shannon Sharp.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like share the videos and phone messages and all of those things with her friends. I mean, she's 21. You're a stripe on her chest, right? You get no stripes because to everybody, like, you punching down.
Right.
she climbing up. Like,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
I just don't understand why we keep falling for this. Like, how many? Cause again, I don't care nothing about. I honestly don't. I think if you're old enough and you make a decision that is for you, that's your business. I don't proclaim to judge nobody for what they do. Bill Belichick's 73 years old and he dealing with a 20-something-year-old, and nobody talking about it, right? And the little girl checked the interviewer who asked Bill Belichick about it.
I saw that. She was like, "Don't talk about that."
He was being interviewed by big media,
right?
And the big media asked him about that relationship. That little girl was on the side, and she asked
him, "How did you meet?"
We not talking about
How
that.
did you meet? A simple question.
A very simple question.
But she didn't want to answer.
No, you don't want to say. She don't want nobody to know how that was arranged or what service arranged that, right? Because old girl was on the sideline and she said, "We ain't talking about that." And the conversation, Bill ain't pushed back or nothing. He the 73-year-old elder in the situation, and he just was like, "We're not talking about that."
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Why is that? Like, you can't say we met at the park, we met at the coffee shop,
right?
Because, it's probably OnlyFans or it's probably like some type of service provider.
Yeah,
you don't want us to know about it. But that's your business. If y'all happy, who cares? But the issue is, why are we recording intimate conversations that are one-sided, right? Because if you knew you were being recorded, that's different. If that's a part of our arrangement.
If that's your thing.
But if I'm going to press record and I'm recording you secretly, and then those recordings are now being used to malign you publicly, because he's the only one being talked about in a degrading way, because it almost borderlines on people thinking it's pedophilia at this point.
Right.
But that's crazy though. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I have respect for Shannon Sharpe and the work that he's done through his NFL career.
Yeah,
and
Hall of Famer.
And then on into broadcasting, and then a hugely popular sit on the couch, have a drink show. And
because that's what a mess is.
Yeah,
now he's the topic of the mess.
Right. And so he's built an audience, he's built a base, and he's gone, I think, beyond what he thought he would be able to achieve post NFL.
Yeah.
But you make a decision how to protect that.
Yeah. We're gonna ask Papa Baptiste on the other side of the break, and I want you to stay with us, Papa Baptiste, because I got a question for you as well. We talking about all of the things today with the one and only Will Sutton. Y'all stay with us right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about
all day long.
WBOK New Orleans, home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know with BIN News. Sean Diddy Combs rejected a plea deal ahead of his sex trafficking trial. He has pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking and racketeering charges. Jury selection begins May 5th with opening statements on May 12th. New data from Lending Tree shows more Americans using loans to buy groceries. A survey found half of 2,000 consumers used credit for food and 25% used buy now, pay later loans. A DEA raid at an illegal Colorado Springs nightclub resulted in over 100 arrests, including undocumented immigrants and active duty service members. Drugs, weapons, and evidence of prostitution were found. And the NBA playoffs continued Sunday with 4 teams taking 3-1 series leads. The Celtics beat the Magic 107-98, the Knicks edged the Pistons 94-93, and the Pacers crushed the Bucks 129-103. Also, the Timberwolves down the Lakers 116-113. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
New Schools for New Orleans is committed to celebrating the hardworking teachers of New Orleans Public Schools. Join us at the 4th annual NOLA Teacher Fest, sponsored by the All-State Sugar Bowl New Orleans teacher community. The NOLA Teacher Fest is happening Friday, May 2nd at Champion Square from 4 to 7 p.m. The fest is open to teachers, paraprofessionals, deans, coaches, counselors, and other school support staff. Visit our website to learn more and RSVP, www.newschoolsforneworleans.org.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
To the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta White. Shout out to Naira Sanders, our super producer here at WBOK.
Naira.
And the one and only Will Sutton is co-piloting this airplane that we are so graciously flying in the air.
Thank you for
this
having
morning.
me along.
Absolutely. So welcome back to the Good Morning Show. And we have Papa Batiste on line 1. Good morning, Papa. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning. Peace and blessings. And as my dad would say, como se va, madam, messieurs.
Thank you.
I wanted to pick up just a little bit on that last conversation because isn't the press secretary around 28 or 29 and the husband is 60?
She's 27.
So, yeah, and husband.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's about 59, 60 years old.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, so you never know how that went.
Right.
But anyway, I was calling to thank the city of New Orleans, the mayor's office, and everybody, all the media that sent out their deepest condolences for the loss of Paul Batiste, my brother.
Yeah.
He helped me to cultivate and make one of the funkiest band in the world, one of the funkiest band, David Batiste and the Gladiators. Then he went on to form in the late 70s the Batiste Brothers. But before that, while doing all that, he's retired as a 30-year school teacher, band director. He helped Sophie B. Wright gets their first band uniforms and marching, I think maybe the first parade after Hurricane Katrina. He helped bring that school back together. Thousands of people. He was at John Mack for so many years. He taught at Hines as an itinerary teacher. He graduated from SUNO, worked with Kid Jordan and some of the wonderful musicians out at SUNO. So all I wanted to do is thank the people. Paul's funeral is coming up. We have a tentative date for May the 6th, just tentatively, so everybody can anybody's interested. And then I'm going to be doing a tribute to my brother at the Dewdrop Inn on May the 10th, a pre-Mother's Day function that was already set up for me to do, but now, since the unfortunate passing of my brother, I'm going to be celebrating his life as a musician, as a band leader, as a band director, as a school teacher. So all the musicians out there that know Paul, and I know all of them know him, man, from all of the great musicians. They've called my house from all over the planet when finding out about Paul. So I just thank WBOK. Paul and I played on WBOK when WBOK was on Baron Street.
Yeah.
That was our first broadcast with Champ Clark. After winning one of the big talent shows, we came on WBOK and we played live. So a lot of experiences my brother and I shared together. And I love him, first of all, as a brother. I appreciate him for what he's done for our community as a school teacher. I appreciate him as a military person who served in the armed forces and came out E5 or E7 high in the Army. So thank you to the city of New Orleans. Thank you, WBOK, for giving me this time to run my mouth and tell y'all thank you for helping me share this loss of my brother.
We appreciate you, Papa.
Our condolences on the loss of Paul. You guys, your family have meant so much to New Orleans, musicians, culture, and then, it's just such an important part of the fabric of this city. And the loss of Paul is going to, it sent shockwaves over the weekend as I talked with people and saw different social media posts and all. And losing a Batiste is tough, but we know that you, Pops, and the rest of the family will grieve in the way that you need to grieve. And I'm glad to hear that you'll do a musical tribute to your brother. But we're going to love on you and we're thankful for the time that you all shared, Paul, with us.
Thank you, Papa Betsy. We
Yeah.
appreciate you.
All right, gang. We'll keep y'all informed.
That's
Be
May
blessed
10th.
and that-
May 10th.
Oh yes, one quick thing we're doing a small tribute at Tulane University at the chapel, 1229 Broadway, on April 30th from 6:30 to 7:32. So anybody in the Tulane, so at the chapel, and a lot of people are going to be coming by from 6:30 to 7:30 at the chapel for Tulane University on Broadway. And also, I got ahead of myself. My son Damon is doing the tribute to Paul. Damon is performing with his band at the Jazz Fest May 1st on Congo Square stage at 2:00. So
2 o'clock.
that is going
May
to be
1st.
something else. Yeah.
Okay.
May 1st, Congo Square stage. We're going to do a celebration of Paul's life as well.
All right.
Thank you, Papa Betsy. We
Keep us
appreciate
up to
you.
date.
Listen, we wanna add some context to that as well, because it also says that through his decades of dedication to music education, Betsy shaped the futures of countless students and inspired them to strive for greatness both on and off stage. Betsy's graduated from Southern University at New Orleans in 1978 and started his teaching career with student teaching at McDonough 35 and later McDonough High School. Plans are underway to host a public celebration of his life in the city. And the city of New Orleans released a statement that reads, May LaToya Cantrell and the city of New Orleans mourn the loss of Paul A. Baptiste, a proud son of New Orleans, Army veteran, educator, musician, and cultural icon. Mr. Baptiste dedicated his life to service in the military, in the classroom, and on the stage, shaping generations of musicians and preserving the rich legacy of New Orleans music. We extend our deepest condolences to his family, friends, and all those whose lives he touched. His spirit will live on through the countless students he taught, the music he shared, and the community he loved so deeply. So rest in peace to the one and only Paul Baptiste. So we want to thank Papa Baptiste for sharing that moment with us as well. We did not want to move away from acknowledging the passing of Paul Baptiste and the cultural icon that family is for the city of New Orleans. But I hate to add to, put that into what we were talking about, because we were just talking about this situation, and Papa Baptiste brought up something too that we should be adding to some layers to it. He was talking about the press secretary.
Absolutely.
She's not yet 30.
Yep.
I believe she's 27 years old, and I think her husband is in his 60s, if not.
That's correct.
60 years old, and so. That's why I'd say I try to stay away from this idea that folk can't be in different age brackets and find love with each other. That's to
Right.
each their own. Whatever you
Right.
decide is best for your life. But what I'm saying is we have to start to understand who we are and what's at stake, and if the decisions we're making are worth worth of the fallout, the backlash, because now it's starting to feel like this was like he was a mark, like it was in our community. We say lick, like she hit a lick, right? Because why are we recording? That's all I'm saying. And now you're talking about that he abused you in some way or assaulted you in some way. But there are text messages where you're talking in a very explicit manner to him, giving him the directions of what you want to have done.
Yeah, that's the other part of it. It's like,
yeah,
my
it's like
goodness. You're like, okay, come into my web.
Yeah, and that's the poetic way of saying it, because it surely wasn't said like that,
No,
right?
no.
And so for me, I'm having a hard time understanding how we go from this is a consensual situation, no matter how it looks to everybody else. This is what we were doing. This is our thing. To now that you've gotten it to be our thing, now I'm gonna start recording so that I can get you saying the things that you're saying, which is the role play we were doing.
Right.
It just doesn't feel above board to me.
Right.
And I'm not trying to defend Shannon Sharpe, because I think at 56 years old that there should be a modicum of lived experience that tells you when a red light is blinking that means danger. You know what I mean?
Right,
I can't speak for you. All I'm saying is, because this was the topic of one of the podcasts I was listening to, and one of the callers said he's not appreciative of the double standard in terms of older women dating younger men. He even brought up the movie Stella Had Got Her Groove Back. Talking about when women do it, it doesn't seem to be like this nasty, sort of connotation on it. But when men do it, it's a different dynamic or whatever. And for me, as I'm saying, if two consenting adults, no matter what the age is, and nobody's forcing the other one to do anything, or nobody's, using power to control the other one, from the text messages that I read that are now public,
right?
She was not only participating, she was like controlling the conversation in some of these text messages. And so, at what point did it stop being what we are doing to now being something that I have to bring charges or a lawsuit against you for? Because from where I sit, it just looks like it was a intricate plan. I don't have no other explanation for it. It does not smell right. What do you think?
And right on the cusp of a major $100 million deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see how that can be revived.
Because let's be very clear, Will. She was trying to, or her representatives were trying to get him to settle in some sort of way quietly, right? Where it wasn't like a media thing. From his side of things, he's saying he bought it to the public because it felt like extortion, like a shakedown. And that is why he started talking about it publicly. I don't know if that's true or not. What I'm saying is, at 56, I would like to think that you've lived enough and you've gone through enough trials and tribulations and life experiences,
enough relationships
to see what they call the red flags, to see the blinking lights, like danger. You know what I mean? Like I would like to think that I will covet my wealth and all of the things that I've done in my lifetime to get to this point where I'm at. I would just be vetting folk who are coming into my personal space a little bit deeper than a OnlyFans. You know what I mean?
Right,
I'm just saying.
Right.
And some things are just, to me, goofy.
Right.
It's just goofy for you to just be out here, and two, there are a lot of whispers about his sexuality.
Absolutely.
So then to me, is this like to try to prove, what side of the cage you batting on? I don't know what this is, but it just does not feel like this is a 56-year-old man, and you're making decisions that are predicated on all of the things you've worked so hard for, and now it's just up in smoke. Now you're the butt of a joke, right? Now you are a headline that you probably don't want to be a part of. But I'm talking to anybody. I would be leery of anybody who's recording our personal conversations. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't even put myself in a position to be around a person who I believe was secretly recording me. Like, does he not have enough people in his team to be like, the environment is set,
right?
And then the person comes into your environment. Like, why are you putting yourself in their environment where they could control the idea that they're recording you? Like,
right.
I don't know.
And it wasn't that long ago that he had another intimate sexual relationship.
I remember
recorded, and it's like, okay, what's with the recording? So
and I'm gonna be honest with you, Will. I thought he did that on his own because I felt like he was trying to prove his, his straightness, his heterosexual prowess. I just felt like that was a ploy, like that was some type of PR stunt. I just call it how I see it. That's how my eyes see it. But I'm just saying, like, when you're that wealthy or you're that rich or you're that well off or you have that sort of prestige around yourself, to me, I've heard stories where Sean P. Diddy Combs has invited women to a home, and he sold a home because he didn't want them to know that he lived there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you telling me you worth all this money, you worth all of this, like all of these, you have sponsors now, like you have people buying into your brand, and you gonna let a 21-year-old OnlyFans model blow up your castle? I just feel like
and a team. People counting on him.
Yes.
Backing him up. Making him who he is. And those people have families.
Yes.
And they weren't on the recording. They weren't in the situation. But this is what you're doing to us.
But even with the Jonathan Major situation, right? The part of that felt like, because here's the thing: if you're putting your hands on women, you need to be held accountable. That's a full stop, right?
Yep.
But part of me also felt like you've been in a relationship with this man. They were in a relationship, like long-term relationship, and you're recording him without his knowledge, and you're recording him at the moment where he seems to be, the big bad wolf, right? And you're this, you Goldilocks or somebody, right? I'm very leery of that kind of stuff because, of course, if you're the one recording, you're not going to show your true emotion and you're not going to say what you've done. They were putting hands on each other.
You know what's happening.
Yes, and I don't. You're putting hands on each other. But again, I have don't put your hands on anybody. Don't hit me. But men putting their hands on women is inexcusable. Women putting their hands on men is inexcusable. But I find it very suspect when there's a recording and you're trying to use the recording to show that you were the victim and they were the aggressor, when only one of us know that something is being recorded. So only one of us know what behaviors that need to be displayed to get the kind of outcome that you want to have.
Right.
Because if this was a third party recording and somebody that's in the apartment and is recording y'all and neither one of y'all know, then okay. But if you could govern yourself accordingly because you know you're recording and you're trying to catch me at my weakest moment, I just find that to be a little suspect.
Well, let me pick up on that word you use, inexcusable. Because even if you're in a consensual relationship, nothing about love. You've done this, whatever you do, 24 times. And the woman says on the 25th time, no.
It's an absolute full stop.
That is inexcusable.
Yeah. But the push there is because it's so convoluted, right? Talk about the Shannon Sharpe thing. Because if this is a part of the dynamic where I want to feel like you're taking advantage of me as a part of the role play that we're doing. You and I know that. That's what's going on. But if I'm recording it, and it's the understanding that this is what we're doing, a person who's listening to the recording is like, wait, hold up. If she said don't do this, then why are you doing it? But then you're gonna say, this is our game. This is what we do.
Right.
So there's a lot of mud there that I don't care to crawl through.
Right.
All I'm saying is know who you are, know what's at stake, and be prepared that if this thing go left, that you're okay with it blowing up and you losing everything that you work for. And if you think a 21-year-old OnlyFans model is worth that, then baby, go ahead on and have at it, right? I just don't think that when the cons outweigh the pros for me, I'm gonna walk away from it.
Right.
And to me, you blew up your whole life on a kid that doesn't really even understand what she want to do tomorrow. And then she gonna have another mark lined up after she's imploded your life. Because again, no absolutely means no. And I'm a woman. I understand that. I don't care what I could be in the midst of it. If I want to say stop, it stops.
Absolutely.
But I cannot gauge if this is a thing that y'all have going on and part of it is being dominated or part of it is going past the no because that's what turns you up.
Right.
I, on the outside, can't judge that if that's y'all's agreement. But what's suspect about it is if this is y'all's agreement and now you're recording it to catch the agreement, and so the layperson on the outside who doesn't know the agreement is like, wait, she said no. But then you're like, well, she always say no, and then we always keep going. And we're like, I don't know about that. That's treacherous territory, especially when you read her text messages.
Yeah.
Because her text messages are very vile and very
explicit.
Explicit. We need a new word, journalist. What's deeper than explicit? What's deeper than explicit? We got to go to break round here. But I'm just saying, when we come back, we're going to talk to Jamila Hodge from the Equal Justice USA organization, talking about the reckless termination of vital community safety funding that will directly impact 5 nonprofit organizations right here in the state of Louisiana. So stay with us, y'all. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about
all day long.
Good Monday morning. I'm Daryl Forges with WDSU News, and here's your headlines. A Jefferson Parish woman accused of brutally killing her boyfriend's child is set to stand trial today. Bunek Landon is charged with first-degree murder and 2 counts of obstruction of justice in the death of 6-year-old Bella Fontenelle. Investigators say Landon killed the child in April of 2023, then placed Bella's body in a bucket and left it on the front lawn of the child's mother. After being closed all last week, the Orleans Parish Municipal and Traffic Court will reopen today. The Traffic Court was closed for electrical repairs, marking the 3rd time the court was closed because of a power failure. New Orleans City Council members are calling for an investigation into working conditions for city employees. The council wants to investigate allegations of harassment, retaliation, and arbitrary hiring decisions of the Department of Public Works. The investigation will look into other departments where conditions could be impacting employees' work. Council members will also discuss sanitation services in the French Quarter and Downtown Development District. This comes after Mayor LaToya Cantrell announced that the current contract with Ivy Waste will be terminated early. Today's meeting is set for 10 a.m. inside council chambers. And the NFL continues to investigate a prank call made to quarterback Shedeur Sanders during the NFL draft. According to the NFL, the 21-year-old son of Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator made the call to Sanders. Now, while Sanders awaited news of his draft status, Jax Ulbrich, the son of Jeff Ulbrich, called the quarterback, claiming to be Mickey Loomis of the Saints. Ulbrich has apologized for his actions. Shedeur has yet to comment about the incident, and Shedeur was drafted by the Cleveland Browns. I'm Daryl Forges. That's your headlines for WBOK, and have a great day.
Connect with NOLA Public Schools. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X for the latest updates. Sign up for District Digest, our official newsletter where we share district achievements, celebrate student successes, and keep you informed about our vision of providing a high-quality education. And don't miss our school board meetings. Watch in person or live stream on YouTube. Stay informed. Stay engaged. Visit nolapublicschools.com today. Again, that's nolapublicschools.com.
The National World War II Museum. Located in the Warehouse District of New Orleans, the National World War II Museum tells the story of America's experience in the war that changed the world, why it was fought, how it was won, and what it means today. Visit them online at www.nationalww2museum.org for time tickets and safety information.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta White. Shout out to my super producer, Nyron Sanders, and my co-host this morning, the one and only Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Right now, we're getting ready to jump into conversation with Jamila Hodge. She is the CEO of the Equal Justice USA organization, and we're going to jump into that conversation about this attack on funding that's going to have a direct impact on 5 nonprofit organizations right here in the state of Louisiana. Good morning, Jamila Hodge. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. You're on with Dr. Wyatt and Will Sutton.
Good morning. Good morning. And please call me Jami. It's what everybody calls me. I'm so excited to be on the show.
Jami?
Jameen or Jamila?
Yes, Jami.
Jami, okay.
Yes.
I like it. It's cute.
Thank you, Jami. Thank you, Jami.
Thank you.
It's cute. How you doing this morning?
You know, I'm hanging in here. It's been a rough week. I know we're going to talk a lot about the notice we got last week, but it has been rough to have funding that was, not just passed by Congress and allocated and work that we've started, particularly with the amazing organizations that we've partnered with in Louisiana, to have it taken with no notice for no reason has made it a pretty tough week. But I'm hanging in there. This work is so important. We're taking one day at a time, and we're going to fight, as much as we can.
Here's my issue, Jami, because I'm quite confused about what we've always been taught about these three separate layers of government, and not one is supposed to be more powerful than the other.
Co-equal.
It's really making me wonder if everything we thought we knew about the fabric or the foundation of this country is even valid, because how can funding be allocated by Congress, that is the power of the purse, and allocated to these organizations, and then the executive branch can come back and say, we don't want you to have this money. They don't have the power to do that as far as the classes I took in school talking about civics. So I really want to understand, how can funding be jeopardized that was already appropriated and allocated for your organization to help these nonprofits in the state of Louisiana?
Yeah, I am with you, Dr. Wyatt. We have never seen this happen before. Every new administration has the right to come in and set their own priorities, but those priorities are forward-looking. So they prepare their own budgets. They propose those budgets to Congress, and those budgets reflect their forward-looking priorities. We have never seen a new administration come in and then go backwards and it's not I don't think it's legal, but because they have the power of implementation, right? Like the DOJ is the one who is implementing this grant, even whether it's legal or not. What they've done is they've stopped access to the dollars. But I just want to start with, I agree with you. This is not, it's our position that it's not legal. They don't have the right. Congress has already allocated. But, unfortunately, I don't think it matters that it's not legal. They still implemented it. And, at the bottom line, we can't get the money. We can't continue to give the money, and which is why we're going to fight. We are looking at every possible legal option. But, if you're following the news, there's been lots of legal actions.
Yeah.
And even when there's a good court order, it doesn't mean they always listen to it. And so one of the things I hope your listeners take away is we are in historic times. I think it's not that we're fighting for a democracy. I think we've already lost our democracy. And so everyone needs to be getting engaged at this point.
Jamie, I have a question for you. This is happening so fast to so many, and a lot of us are just amazed every day by which organizations that we look to are getting some kinds of cuts. So in the case of EJUSA, what kinds of cuts, what kinds of money have you relied on in the past, for how long, and what amount of money is being cut, and what does that mean here in Louisiana?
Yeah, so we're a national organization, and the grants that we're talking about that have this direct impact on Louisiana are to uplift community-based solutions to violence. That's a big part of what our work is we understand that violence happens, and so much of how our society responds is through a racist punishment framework. We send police and prosecutors after the fact. We then imprison people after the fact, but we're not addressing the root causes, what drives violence. So a lot of our work is partnering with, and I'm going to talk briefly about the 5 amazing organizations in Louisiana who are doing that frontline violence intervention and prevention and healing work. So in terms of numbers, our overall grant was about a $2.9 million grant over 3 years, more than half of that being passed through to our partners on the ground there in Louisiana, and passed through in a couple ways. Each organization getting up to $250,000 in sort of organizational to operate. And then we also wrote into the grant, this was really, I was just so proud of my team, because what we're trying to do here is stand in the gap. Small organizations usually don't have the capacity to deal with all of the requirements of getting federal money, because there's so many hoops to jump through and paperwork and reporting. So we serve as an intermediary where we will take on that, take on the burden of all the paperwork and accessing systems and all the training, so that we can pass through those dollars so they can go out and do the work. So each of those organizations in addition to the up to $250,000 in funding, was we wrote into their grants their salaries, their founders, their ED salaries, so that would be covered, so that they're not fundraising for that while they can focus on the work. So, and then the other piece was providing some capacity support through 3 fellows who were adding capacity to each of these organizations, whether that's in the programmatic work or maybe if it's on getting the news out through websites and things about the work that they're doing, whatever the needs were, just trying to help sort of expand what they were doing. But I can tell you now about, briefly about each of the organizations. The first is Beyond Harm, which is in New Orleans, and it's led by co-directors Eva Lessinger and Amanda Tonkovich. And it's a violence intervention, prevention, and healing organization that's focused specifically on domestic violence. The second organization is called Silences Violence in New Orleans, and it's led by Executive Director Tamara Jackson. And it's also a violence intervention, prevention, and healing organization. But what they do is respond to homicide scenes. So after someone's killed, they provide counseling and support to the victims' families. The third organization is the Bridge Agency, which is located in Baton Rouge, led by Executive Director Nicole Scott. And they do a lot of work around youth, working with youth around violence prevention and healing through a youth advocacy and healing program. They provide trauma healing services and leadership development. The fourth organization is Moms on a Mission in Shreveport, and is led by their president, Martha Tyler. This is an organization that empowers mothers of gun violence victims through advocacy, holistic wellness, healing support. And then finally, because we didn't want to leave out the really small cities that often get overlooked when we're talking about federal dollars and support. So in Bogalusa, Louisiana, it's Forever Takes a Village, which was founded and led by Kalia Daniels. And it's also violence intervention, prevention, but they do sort of that frontline street outreach, working with youth who are most vulnerable to violence. So you can tell these are 5 incredible organizations led by brilliant, incredible leaders who no longer will have money because of this illegal, change in plan by this new administration.
I mean, and I think
that's pretty amazing. It's quite a thing that I've heard of some of these groups, but I have not heard of all of these groups. Mm-hmm. And what that tells me is that if those groups have staff working on these things, that the work that they do is at risk. Is it already at risk? I mean, when do you have to stop sending them money to help them do the work? Or has that
the notice came in on Tuesday at 5:30, and it said immediately. So, and then when we went into the portal, because it's a reimbursable grant, which means we spend the money first, and then we have to file to reimburse. So when they kicked us out of the portal and sent a notice terminating our grant immediately, the DOJ still owed us over $350,000 in money we've already passed through and spent, and work we've already done. So these partners who have been, getting a payroll check from us, getting again these dollars for the work they're doing, are no longer. We literally cannot. We don't have the funding, to pay them. So one of the things I would just definitely lift up for your audience is they need your support, So if you know them, these organizations, the work they're doing in your communities, please reach out, donate, support them, ask how you can help. Because they need it. We need it too as a national organization, but I really want to lift up, particularly in Louisiana, the folks who are right there doing incredible work on the ground.
Well, I know Silences Violence personally. I do a lot of work with them. Shout out to Tamara over at Silences Violence. And my question was going to be, because on Thursdays here at WBOK, we talk directly with our Congressman Troy Carter. What can Congress do in the meantime? Should we be emailing our congressmen? Should we be calling other congressmen? What should the folk who are listening do to try to re-engage this grant money or this funding, not grant money, but this funding to these organizations? What can we do as a constituency to help turn this thing around.
Absolutely. Like those things you just named, talking to your congressman, asking them to reach out to their colleagues, because part of me is shocked that Congress isn't more, engaged and up in arms. Like these folks are completely stepping all over your power. Like this is your job, is to handle the money and the budget. And, I get politics plays a lot, and it's not that we have the majority, but that doesn't mean we can't make noise and continue to pass bills, propose bills, draw attention in the country, to what is happening and help people be aware. So engaging Congress, definitely. There's going to be a press conference at the Louisiana State Capitol building in Baton Rouge on Wednesday, May 7th. And so getting folks to come out and show up, there's power in numbers at that press conference to, take a stand with us and with our partners saying, no, this is not okay. And we need our leaders to do everything in their power to pull every lever to put that money back. And then just, share the word. Like we're putting out a lot of social media and things through EJUSA that you can share, repost, tell people. But if any of these leaders, I would be reaching out, offering whatever help and support, because it is devastating to be in the midst of life-saving work and know your money has been taken.
Well, I think, Jamie, too, I think it's important to recognize that all of this stuff, in my opinion, is interconnected. You have this assault on Black leadership all across this country, deeming their communities, their cities so crime-ridden that they need state takeovers. But then you're also undercutting organizations and initiatives that are supposed to be violence interrupters and putting the much needed resources in the communities to curb violence or to respond to violence, so to hopefully prevent another act of violence. So on the one hand, you want to demonize these communities for being so violent, but then on the other hand, you're pulling much needed funding that will help interrupt the violence or curb the violence. So to me, I believe it's all a part of the same scheme to ensure that our communities stay impoverished, stay crime ridden, and so they're ripe for the taking, right? That's just, I believe it's all interconnected. And I think I want us to start thinking about how one decision by this government is like a domino effect on other parts of our community. It's all interconnected. If we just get a bird's eye view of what is actually happening here, it's an attack on the school system. Now it's an attack on our program, and it's all interconnected.
And Dr. Wyatt, that what you're saying is so critical, because the other thing, what we've seen in these last 2 years, the Biden-Harris administration that pushed these federal dollars out, this was the first time we'd ever seen this historic level of funding pushed from the federal government to community-based solutions. Like, this is new. It's not that the solutions haven't been there. We've always had folks showing up after a shooting, right? But to actually get federal resources that were targeted, and what we saw behind those resources in some cities up to between 35 and 50% reduction in violent crime. Like these solutions have been working. Yeah. They've been working. It's not just money going down, they're working. Our communities are less violent because of it. And so but again, everything you're saying is right. You want to kind of stand in front of microphones and demonize certain communities. And we know that racism plays a role in this, because it's not every community. It's Black communities, brown communities who are marginalized, who are labeled, violent and dangerous and all the things. And then you take away what's working in the very communities. And it's also because understanding what drives it, right? Like poverty drives violence, you know? And so when you take away, and trauma drives violence, when you take away the resources that are addressing those things, what do we think is going to happen? We know that violence is going to increase when you remove.
They know it too. They know it too. And also too, and to the conversation, just to add another layer to it, because we're talking about violence, right? Intra-community violence and those things like that. But he's also shut down, the Trump administration has shut down the suicide hotline number. And in response, Canada has broadcasted their national hotline, which now has a toll-free American version, which is 1-877-330-6366. And the fact that and we've always been an ally to Canada, but the fact that we're now adversarial towards Canada, and they're still trying to extend themselves to make certain that if a person in these United States are considering self-harm, are trying to, deal with a temporary issue with a final solution, that there are people out there who want to intervene and help out. But our country is doing everything it can to strip its own people of much needed resources, whether that be resources to fight crime, whether that's resources to feed people, whether that's resources for those of us who are struggling under the weight of all of the responsibility and no way to get these responsibilities done. So we think suicide is an option. They're taking away all of these much needed resources. And I think it's time, in my opinion, for the constituency, all of the people of this country, to come together and push back against this administration. I think that's the only thing that's going to curb the direction that this country is going.
And I just want to make sure, is there any risk that any of these 5 organizations will have to totally shut down as opposed to curb what they do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Just like we are right now still figuring out what this means for us in terms of our budget and how it impacts our work and literally our ability to keep our doors open. I imagine they are all doing the same right now, just trying to figure out how does this directly impact their ability to not just do the work, but keep their doors open, because this was a significant funding source. This wasn't, a small grant.
Yeah, I mean, if I understand it correctly, you said the funding that you were providing were supporting staff.
Well, I'm looking at their expenses, and I think if something doesn't happen immediately, then a lot of especially the smaller 501c3 organizations, their doors probably will close because there's no other funding source. They do fundraising and things of that nature, but a significant lift to them was the programming dollars that they were getting from the federal government. And so that's and even for EJUSA, that's a huge amount of their operating dollars. And so something has to change, or they're going to be in critical condition. I mean, not even a month or two, they'll be in critical condition. So our thoughts are with you. We're hoping that anybody listening who has the capacity to give will consider giving to Equal Justice USA, giving to Beyond Harm, Silence is Violence, Bridge Agency, Moms on a Mission, or It Takes a Village. There are so many organizations out there doing wonderful work, and they need our help. And some of us may not be in a position to give financially, and and that's okay. But if you are able to give $1, $5, $10, all of those dollars start to add up, and that's the difference between the viability of a program or the complete closure of a program. And so we're hoping that you being here on our airwaves brings some sort of light to your circumstance, and somebody listening in a decision-making capacity could do something to help turn this ship around.
Can you tell us once more about Wednesday, May 7th, and what's happening at the state capitol and how people can reach you?
Yes, so there's a press conference that's going to happen. We're still working on the details, like the exact time. We're working with our partners there on the ground to sort of finalize the details. But if you follow us at ejusa.org, we will certainly be putting out information about it. And you can follow us on, you can go to our website, you can follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram. We don't do the Twitter anymore or X.
I don't either, girl. I feel you.
Right.
I feel you.
Yes, but we'll be putting out social about it, and particularly in Louisiana. We have an incredible Louisiana state organizer, Josie, who works closely with so many partners there, and so I know is working hard on pulling everybody together and, making sure that we can have a good turnout. But there truly is power in numbers. When leaders see, oh, this is not, going to be swept under the rug. People they are aware of it, they're mad about it, and you need to do something about it. And that comes when people show up and demand something different from their leaders. Because there is, even if the federal doesn't change their mind and reinstate these grants, there are other public dollars. There are state dollars. There are city dollars. So, pushing whatever way possible to fill these important gaps so this work can continue.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we appreciate you. And you could always come back and give us an update on where we are in terms of the funding dollars and what critical need areas we need to try to fundraise for, even any call to action that you want to share with our listening audience that you think WBOK can help you push. So you're always welcome back here to share with us your progress in the future. So I appreciate you for being here this morning.
All right. Thanks so much.
Have a good one. Listen, we have to go to break, but we want to thank Jamila Jameh Hodge, the CEO of the EJUSA, that is the Equal Justice USA organization, and she was here talking about this allocation of funding that happened, and then the Trump administration came and snatched it up. So a lot of the organizations
affecting 5 Louisiana organizations.
So a lot of the organizations that she helps to fund, they are now in critical need of resources and funding. And so we want to stay on top of that story, but we want to thank her for joining us this morning. We're going to go to a break, but when we come back, y'all know we're going to talk about it, so we can't talk about it no more right here. WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
This is your news update for WBOK from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Expect a hot week. Partly cloudy skies today with near record highs in the mid to upper 80s. Partly cloudy tonight, lows in the 60s and 70s. Clouds increase Tuesday and Wednesday, highs both of those days in the mid to upper 80s. Rain arrives by Thursday on into the weekend. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Trying to grow your business or increase traffic to your location? We can help. WBOK 1230 AM has a number of solutions that will meet your individual needs. Give one of our consultants a call today at 504-582-9420 or email us at info@wbok1230.com. And remember, an investment with WBOK is an investment in our community. Call today.
How we help each other shows what kind of world we want to live in. And the smallest actions together speak the loudest. So, what kind of world do you want to live in? Give NOLA Day is May 6th. Early giving starts April 29th. Visit givenola.org.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 1230 AM on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
New Orleans, if you know a young adult or you are a young adult, listen up. This is your chance to level up your future.
Job One's Young Adult Career Expo is going down April 16th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 1307 Oritha Castle Haley Boulevard.
Put on your best outfit, grab your resume, and meet employers from across the city.
Some of them might even hire you on the spot.
This is your moment. Get ready with Job One.
Tell a teen, tell a cousin, tell everybody 16 and up. Register now at job1nola.org.
Paid for by the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act.
This summer, let your child's creativity shine at Camp Art, New Orleans' most vibrant, arts-driven camp experience for kids ages 4 to 12. Hosted by Beyond the Stage, Camp Art blends visual art, theater, music, dance, and creative writing with New Orleans history and culture. Plus, field trips, guest artists, and camper showcases. With full-day programming before and after care and sessions starting June 9th, it's the perfect fit for working parents. Fun, enriching, unforgettable. Register now at beyondthestagellc.com/campart and follow us on social media at Beyond the Stage LLC.
Hey everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Brian Banks from the front porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wise. Shout out to my super producer who always behind us glass pointing at me.
Nara!
And my co-host, the one and only Will Sutton, y'all. Happy Monday, everybody.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
We've had a dynamic show. We had Dr. Gina Jacobs on talking about how to reinvent yourself. She went from being a doctor delivering babies to being a lifestyle maven. So shout out to her. And also to the CEO of the Equal Justice USA organization, Ms. Jamie Hodge. She came to talk about this critical need for funding in the wake of the Trump administration pulling critical funding that was already allocated by Congress. I think that's an important part to continue to say. The money was already allocated, and a lot of the monies that were already used were supposed to be reimbursable dollars. So a lot of it is their money that's owed to them already that has been stopped down the pipeline. And so that is very, very dangerous. So hopefully everybody can start to reach out to their congressional leaders and asking them, what can we do to save these viable programs that are happening in communities that are besieged by violence and crime and poverty and a lack of resources and things of that nature? Because we all know we could talk about crime all we want, but if we're not talking about the issues that perpetuate crime, then we're not really talking about crime prevention. And impoverished communities that lack solid school systems, communities that don't pay people livable wages, you will always see high spikes in crime. And so we need to start to do the work to rehab our communities and not just focused on the crime. Yes, it's crime, but there are things that that predicate crime. There are things that go before crime. And so we need to start thinking about those things where we can intervene before the crime happens. So we want to thank our guests for that. But Will and I we just been talking about things.
Yeah.
Just getting into the things. But what I wanna mention really quickly, that I didn't get an opportunity to mention on the air is the New Orleans United Front's monthly town hall meeting is happening today, April the 28th, 5 to 7 p.m. at Cafe Istanbul. That is 2372 St. Claude Avenue in the Healing Center. The distinguished guests on today's panel will be the Honorable Sheriff Susan Hudson, the Honorable State Rep Delisha Boyd, and Stella Cement, the Independent Police Monitor. And the discussion will be centered on sex abuse and child abuse, because this is the month where we talk about victims and survivors of abuse. And I will be your moderator for that event taking place today, 5 o'clock p.m., 2372 St. Claude Avenue in the Healing Center of Cafe Istanbul. And shout out to the New Orleans United Front. Those are some dynamic regular folk, no titles, no offices. They're just community people trying to come together and put critical issues on the table and have folk engaging in a way where it's solution-driven, solution-based. So if you're free this evening at 5 o'clock, pass by Cafe Istanbul and join the conversation there. I also want to talk briefly about Senate Bill 74. And Senate Bill 74 will be heard on April the 29th at 10:30 a.m. in the Senate Committee Judiciary C. And that is the bill that is talking about expanding the scope of crimes, misdemeanor and felony offenses that will incarcerate youth offenders or youth defendants as adults. And so we need to be very, very aware of this this focus on legislating our children into prison systems and legislating our children into the graveyard. And I think that is actually what's happening. These people are not legislating to uplift communities or to bridge gaps in communities. They are targeting specific communities so that they can pillage through them and lock up folk. And they're doing it, in my opinion, very subjectively, because if this was really about law and order, then this would not be a targeted attack on certain communities in certain cities, right? Because we've heard the Attorney General say, we've heard it, like it's documented in an article, that she's coming after the judges in New Orleans in a way that she's not going to come after judges in other parts of Louisiana. She actually says she's going to soften the legislation in different parts of the city because New Orleans has a problem, right? Their judges are not tough enough on juvenile crime. They're not doing their job right? To the level that she deems acceptable. So she's really taking aim at certain cities, whether it be New Orleans, East Baton Rouge, Kettle Parish, up in Shreveport. They're really targeting certain communities, and I think it's no longer a dog whistle. They're just plainly saying the thing that they're saying.
Right.
And so we need to make certain that our house is in order. Yep. We need to make certain that that our judges are supported, because there's not just one way to handle juvenile defendants that come before you. I believe every case is different. You don't handle every child that comes before you with a broad brush, and trying to be this final stop on the train when some intervention doesn't require incarceration, right? And so there should be case by case, and it should be predicated upon the crimes that you're committing. But all of the kids ought to be handled in juvenile venues with juvenile judges for juvenile facilities. Because again, up until you're 25 years old, you're not in the position to be able to understand the gravity of certain decisions that you're making. Because we have a prefrontal cortex, and it takes time to fully develop. Whether you like it or not, that's science.
Right. That's just the reality.
Whether you like it or not, that's science.
That's for all of us.
That's for all of us. And I've had conversations with people whose prefrontal cortex doesn't seem to be in place at 40. So let's just be clear here, right? And so for me, I think that we have to keep our eyes on the legislature and our ears open to what is happening, so we're not finding out about things once they make it to a ballot measure.
I talked to the sponsor of this bill.
Yeah,
I did.
Okay.
I talked to him. I got him on the phone.
Okay, who would that be?
Seaball.
Okay.
And basically, his opinion, connected to this bill but separate and apart, is that juvenile courts have taken on too much, and they need to go back to minor cases of truancy and not be involved in some of these other more serious things, that those belong in criminal district courts.
And you know what I will push back and say? You know what I will push back and say? Then your argument gonna be they're not doing enough. They're not doing enough. What are they doing down there? All they're handling is truancy and he talked back to his teacher, and you know it's gonna be foolishness either way.
And criminal district court, let's be clear, is adult court.
And I also want to be clear about the Attorney General, Liz Morrell. I'm going to call her by her name, right? I want her to come and join the Good Morning Show and have a conversation about why she's pushing certain initiatives that target certain communities of people, because let's be clear, she's selling this as if it's just a venue change, or they're only going to be held in the venue, but they're not going to be subject to adult penalties or adult time. I don't buy that, because if it's only about a venue change, then what's wrong with the venue where it's at, right? What's wrong with a juvenile judge handling juvenile crime for juveniles? Right. Why would an adult judge handle a juvenile for juvenile crimes in an adult court if you're not trying to sentence them to an adult prison? Stop playing in my face, lady. So listen, all I want to do, there's a third seat here, and I want her to sit in it at some point.
All right.
Have our people call her people and organize that, because even Seaball, we could get him up in here. We could get Tony Bacala up in here, because he actually said these children are a lost cause at the age of 2 when they were trying to justify this bill. Right? So there's a lot of conversations that need to be happening in the public, because we do know that there are back rooms where cigars are being smoked and whiskey is being drank, and they're coming up with these decisions of what bills to push, because it's not happening out in the open.
Right.
Because the rationale they're giving us publicly is not the rationale they give to each other when they're encouraging people to put their names on these bills. And half the time, these representatives are signing bills that they don't even understand.
Right.
And that's also a problem. So we're going to continue to talk about it. You coming back tomorrow?
Lord willing.
Listen, y'all stay tuned. I'm next for the Front Porch with Graylin and Kimber. But as far as a Good Morning Show, we going to see y'all tomorrow. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about
all day long.
Shout out to Will, y'all.
campus of Xavier University. WBOK Go and Equity Media Station.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Governor Bob Ferguson signed House Bill 1696 to expand Washington State's Covenant Homeownership Program addressing the wealth gap for Black people, sponsored by Black Democrat Representative Jamila Taylor. The bill raises income eligibility